let me start with this, Alice. It's been a long time since we talked. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. My gosh, so much has happened since the last time. Like you started your own little channel, your own journey. So it's so great to catch up. And I wanted to, get to chat with you as well about like the whole process of like starting your own, like things go. You watch the videos regularly. It's the same for me. Every time you put something out, it's like on the first videos appearing on my recommended. So it's always something I really enjoy your what you've been able to do so far. And like I can see as well like how I don't know, like I don't know if it's me because I know of like, you leaving Wisecrack and stuff, but you see much I don't know, there's something in your videos that has changed. I can notice and in a good way. So yeah, but you mentioned the book, my book, and it's funny actually because like I don't know if you can notice, but my hair is like a little bit wet. I just came back from the office because we were doing the so we have this campaign boycott Watkins
Mhm.
going on. So is it okay if I share like a little bit what we're
Of
doing
course.
or? Yeah, so basically, I wrote a book for Repeater Brooks a few years ago now. It's called Collapse Feminism, and you kindly talked about the book on your live stream as well. Thank you so much. But but now you're not allowed to do it anymore because we're basically what's happening is that Watkins Publishing is owned by the CEO of Watkins Publishing has investment into an AI, like basically like a venture firm that invests in AI technologies, gaming, but we know with like dual use technology. I made a little video about it on Instagram for the campaign. It's not because it's in like AI stuff that is not used for the military as well, and everything is connected. So we've started this campaign, boycott Watkins. So basically, yeah, don't buy the books, don't buy the book, sorry. And there are other ways of getting access to the book, borrowing maybe, and other options that maybe Michael mentioned. I don't know, but
Yeah, so we would say if people want to find a way to read the book without financially supporting that corporation, that is a thing they can do. What they
yeah,
can't do is give money to that publishing
yeah.
group because we're boycotting.
Yeah, exactly. We're boycotting, and it's really important to us. So I was just like doing like one of the public meetings that we've organized, and then I cycled back home. So that's why I'm a little bit. It's very rainy.
Yeah.
You don't want to see the my. I had to change because obviously my jeans are like soaking. They're so heavy. So I'm comfortable now. I'm cozy, and I'm ready for this live stream. So thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, of course. And I feel like you've been on a nice tear because correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't there a period where it felt like you took a bit of time off from
Uh,
putting videos up, or like you slowed down a little bit?
yeah, maybe you saw like I posted on the community post that I was taking a break, but in very like Alice fashion, like it was just a 1 month break.
Yeah.
So I just
But which is
so
big, right? And I think there can
yeah.
be anxiety about doing that because there's always the fear that if I don't do the thing, will I be punished? So
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Like I remember, but at the same time I was confident because I was looking at other people also taking breaks and stuff. So
yeah.
I was like, okay, it's fine. Like I've been doing this for like so long. I deserve a break. And you know what? Actually, it's the 12th of November. So technically, like I've had the channel for 5 years, I
Hey,
think,
happy
if I'm not
birthday.
mistaken. So yeah, yeah, it's been 5 years. I think it's on the 11th of November. Now, if you scroll down to the videos, like the first video is probably not posted on the 11th of November because I don't know if you
Hmm.
do the same thing, but like I tend to put some videos private if I'm not happy with them anymore, and I don't want people to go back to them and be like, "That's what she thinks." No, that's why I thought like 5 years ago. Please, like.
Yeah. Oh,
So yeah.
definitely. Especially now because I had my own channel just to like have it and was occasionally making some very simple stuff when I was still at Wisecrack. And then when I realized like, oh, this is what I'm doing now, I'm gonna go private some things. Not that they're even like
Yeah.
bad, it's just like a level of quality that I didn't feel good about. And then some of it too
Mm-mm.
early on was testing things out and figuring out like what I wanted to do and what would work and what wouldn't work. So no shame in that game whatsoever.
Yeah. Wait, how long has it been since the start of your own like channel?
I think I can look it up exactly. I mean, basically, I started doing this full time ish in the end of April, beginning of May,
Okay, yeah.
because I
Yeah.
think it was mid April that the company laid everyone off all of a sudden.
Yeah. Okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, so that's probably like what I have in mind because okay, yeah, yeah, I see. Okay.
yeah. I mean, and I'd had some stuff before then because we, I like, I knew the writing was on the wall that something bad might happen.
Mm.
So I started like making stuff on my own after it was actually right after Trump got reelected because I was so annoyed and I wanted to talk directly about politics in a way that I knew I couldn't really in that context. So I started like streaming a bit and making some shorter stuff on my personal channel just because like I wanted to. And I wanted to have an outlet for saying that stuff where I didn't have to worry about getting my colleagues in trouble because
Mm.
that wouldn't be, you know, you feel that responsibility when you're like a part of a team, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't want anyone else to get brought down. So yeah, so I had been doing some stuff there, and then more and more as that year progressed, I started taking it a little more serious, a little more seriously, and I like had more fun. I mean, something about directly connecting to an audience where there's no mediation via any like corporate entity feels so much
Mm.
better for me.
Yeah. More
Um,
freedom. Yeah. Now I see.
yeah, and feeling like I'm just myself and not myself as a part of a brand and a brand like profiting off of myself, you
Mm.
know? Yeah.
Do you feel like so what would you say is like the biggest change for you in terms of like how like creatively? Like do you feel like you're a bit more fun in your videos? Like you put a little bit more humor? Like what has changed like creatively for you?
Yeah, I think that in one sense, the broad thing I would say is they're a lot more human and a lot more reflective of me
Mm.
as a person, and I think because
Mm.
they're more reflective of me as a person, I think it means I end up putting a little more humor and absurdity into them. But then I think I
Notice.
yeah, but I think at times I also then put a little more earnestness into them
Mm.
because as a person, I'm, you know, a bit absurd and I do comedy and like that side of things, but I also really like believe in ideas and I really want the world to be better. And I really think even gross things like the internet we can use to make the world better. So it feels to me, it feels like just more human in general. But I would say those are the two main things, like a little funnier, a little more earnest, and then, you know, like it's a fun chance to be creative in new ways. And it's changed the way I watch things. Like I just didn't I think before I would pay attention to videos I liked more in terms of the topics and the hosting. But you know, for example, like when I was started putting my channel together, I remember watching one of your videos and being like, "Oh, I really like how when Alice shows clips sometimes, there's like a card in the background, but then the clip is like raised up and shadowed a little bit." Like little stuff like that I never really thought about before. Even I watched this morning the Erica Kirk video, which I want to ask you about. And there was like some stuff with the way that like you use text on screen, things like that I didn't really have a say in before. So now it's
Mm.
fun for me to think, what do I like and what reflects the things I like? And what do I think
Mm.
might help better aesthetically communicate that?
No, that's interesting. So if you entered the realm of like, because that's the thing for us content creators, and like credit to my editor, like he's the
Mhm.
one doing like obviously like we both work on like what we want to put
Yeah,
forward and everything, but like he's the one doing all the edits, and
fantastic.
now he
Do you
actually
always
works.
use the same editor?
I've changed about a year ago.
Mhm,
We changed, but he's someone who's always been working more or less with progressive creators, so
mhm.
it just makes things so easy. It
Oh,
makes things so
it
easy,
does a
and now he's
fantastic job.
yeah, and now he's full time as well. So it means that I can produce content more quickly, and we can release more videos and stuff. So I feel like we're
Oh,
picking
full
a good
time working on your channel.
yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no, that's
Wow.
great. So that means I don't pay myself anymore, but I have a job on the side, so
Yeah.
so that's good for me. Like that's investment, let's say. But gosh, I can't remember what I wanted to say about that. Oh yeah, no, like I feel like it's difficult for me to watch videos just for the content. Like I can't help but like look at the form as well, if you see what I
Mhm.
mean, when
Yeah.
fellow like video essayists or educational content, because I'm like, "Oh, okay, so they're using this form of edits for
Mhm.
this type of arguments, and they're introducing clips here fully, and here they're just like putting the audio. It's hard now. Like you can't watch something but just for the fun of it. Like you have to overthink everything.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
is. I mean, and I still a lot of the stuff I like to watch most are still things that aren't necessarily reflective of like what I make, which I find
Mm,
comforting. You know, like sometimes it
mm,
is the chore of like with your stuff or like We're in Hell, who was just in the chat, like some other channels I like a lot. It's almost like at a certain point I have to be like, just watch this for what it is. Just
yeah.
stop thinking about it um, in those terms, but I don't know. It's also exciting too to see that. So I don't know. It just feels like there's a lot of room for people to be creative and like make it work in a sustainable fashion right now,
Yeah, yeah. Do you
which is
feel like
nice.
how is your relationship with like work-life balance? How has that changed since now you're like running everything?
Mhm.
Do you feel like you have like a healthy relationship with like or
It's up and down. I think
yeah.
it feels better existentially because I think what was really bad before is that the company that owned Wisecrack was increasingly toxic in like a really
Mm,
bad place. So it was a bad feeling to be overworking myself to ultimately serve an entity that I thought was bad and did not care about
mm,
me or the team at all. So that side is better, but I still think I have a lot of work to do in the balance thing. And I think even doing it in a way that's both sustainable and a way that I think is reflective of my own like personal values. You know,
mm.
I don't want to like make stuff about how we're all working to death if I'm working myself to death.
Working to
Yeah, so it's something I'm figuring out, and it's one of those things. I was kind of rambling about this before you came on, but in thinking about if I have money to pay people to do stuff, what would help? And I think next year I'm going to try to find someone like a younger person who's getting started, maybe wants to do more of like production assistant type stuff with
mm.
me.
No
Cause
ADHD.
yeah, cause my brain, yeah, exactly. Like I'm so just wrecked with that. Like someone that would have the ability to just like help me
Stay
create some
focused
structure for
and
things.
yeah.
Yeah. Cause that's the thing I haven't been used to. Like, making the stuff and communicating with everyone. And then I've just done all the sponsorship stuff that I've done myself thus far. And it's all like worked, but there's been some moments where like we're barely getting things across the finish line, you know?
Mm,
So,
mm,
and I'd like it to be sustainable. Like this is, I still like the one thing I think in getting laid off, I realize is I do like this. And if I can make it work, I want to make it work.
mm.
So yeah.
I'm sure you're gonna make it work. Like people know you, they know the quality of your content. I mean, they've been watching the videos, so I'm like super confident that, even if it's just like you're starting off with the whole like dealing with everything
Mhm.
and dedicating yourself fully to it, but like there's no reason why like it wouldn't work. Like you're definitely someone who has built a reputation on this platform. It's not gonna disappear. And I know it's scary because
Yeah.
sometimes you're like, I've seen some content creators actually leave the platform for
Mhm.
various reasons, and it's like yeah, like everything is so I don't know. Like I'm like, do people still remember this person? Have they forgotten already? And
Mhm.
I feel like even with me, like when I took this tiny break, like just 1 month, there was still like those questions creeping in my head, like, oh, maybe people won't remember me or whatever, which is like absolutely ridiculous. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to do sometimes with those little voice in our head. But yeah.
No, it is. I mean, and something too. Now, I've never attended a live event that you have done, but something I've noticed just from following you is like you do stuff in the world with people. You
Yeah.
speak on panels, you do events, um, and that's something that I hadn't done until quite recently. And I did an event with a couple of YouTubers last month, and that was like a game changer for me just
Oh, in
being
what
in a
way?
room. Well, just like, I did it with Dr. Fatima and CJ the X, and we did this event in San Francisco, and somehow like 200 people showed up,
Oh, that's
and
great.
we, each gave presentations that I thought were like good and spoke to things that mattered, and we did a big Q&A, and we talked to people before and after, and like bridging that divide between making things in a room by yourself that maybe you work on the edit in a room by yourself that you put on the internet and you see numbers, but there's no like humanity to it. Doing something
Mm,
with people just felt so good. So that's like a side of things I'm trying to work on more now as well, of like going places and doing events and kind of like, you said the thing about taking a month break and being like, oh, will people forget when we did a live event? I was like, who's gonna come to this? Like, who's gonna come to this? And like a lot of really great people showed up, and it kind of
mm.
was that reminder that like people want to find spaces to gather together, especially with people that they find creatively and politically engaging, to feel less alone and alienated in this world. And it's like a very nice reminder to know that that is possible.
Oh no, that's so cool. Like I remember a few years ago, I used to organize little meetups when I would go to
Mhm.
like different cities. It was so trendy, like we're talking like YouTube 2015, maybe like the YouTube
Mhm.
2010s. But I did that a few times in London, and that was so fun. And like you could tell, like, if you make the effort not to center yourself in this whole thing, and you're just like one person among other people, like, yeah, you get to see, I don't know, like people having like such interesting conversations, and also like kind of looking at people talking and being like, my gosh, like that's so cool, my subscribers. I
Yeah.
they're so
I mean,
smart and so cool. Like,
honestly, like, that's the best, and it's the best feeling. Like whenever I tend to meet people in life who are like, "Oh, I watch the channel," they're often these really interesting, creative, thoughtful people, and
yeah.
that's really like inspiring to then
Mm,
have in your head like that's who I'm making stuff for.
mm, mm, mm.
So it's exciting to do that, and I think like this is something I'll talk to you about another time, like even offline. But I know something that CJ the X has been working on that I've been helping them with is figuring out how do we like bridge that divide more between having these audiences on the internet, having these communities. How do we make that a little more real? How
Mm.
do we use that to, whether it's like for political activism or literally just creating communal spaces and events where people can get together and feel less shitty and alone.
No, no,
Um,
yeah, it makes so much sense. And I've seen definitely like this trend even with podcasts, organizing live
mhm.
podcast session, and
Yeah.
sometimes they're sponsored as well. So I think like that makes things a bit easier.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, no, that's definitely something that and that's something I appreciate about you as well. It's like you're making efforts to, try to even like the live stream or those sort of
Mhm.
things. Like I always hate myself for not. I mean, now I'm like I'm trying. Like I've made this commitment of maybe doing like a series of interviews, and
Yeah.
I'm asking you right now, and in front of your audience, so that you can't say no if you'd like to. But we'll get in touch for that. But like maybe for
I would
Patreons or
never
things
say
like that.
no, Alice. If you ever asked me to do anything and an email came back that said no, you would know that I had been kidnapped. You could let the authorities know.
That's great. Or even like for videos, sometimes like there are video topics where I'm like, oh yeah, it'd be great like to get this person or this
Mhm.
person involved, and then as the process move on, it's like, okay, I only have like 3 days to research and write the script, and then I need to send to
Mhm.
the editor, and like everything goes so fast. But at the same time, it's like sometimes I tell myself like, no, like stop using those excuses. Like you need to make something. You need to create that those connections. So
No, and
yeah,
it is
just a quick
important to do
reminder.
that.
Yeah,
That's the thing I've
yeah,
been
it is
inspired
totally.
by recently too. Like one of the first longer videos I made for my channel, I just interviewed a bunch of people for it, and it felt good. And I think like part of it was I wanted to have perspectives that weren't mine, and it was specifically like talking to people that make philosophy content on YouTube. So part of it, like I just want to know what people think, and then part of it was for the audience, I want this to feel like it is like a community discussion
Yeah.
and
Mm,
not only what I have to say about stuff. Like my next video has some stuff to do with like AI and ethics. So I interviewed a science person, and they're
mm,
popping up in it. But yeah, I think, and I think the thing too, I don't know if you ever feel like this. There's the sense sometimes where maybe we don't want to like reach out or whatever, but like post Wisecrack, I've tried to really intentionally reach out to people whose work I like,
mm.
and in almost every case, they are cool and want to talk. And like a thing I've found in a lot of conversations is a lot of people who do this are like, I want to work with people more. I want to be involved in more communal stuff. I
Yeah.
want to like help other people out, which I feel like is important as well, to not to bring up, Joe Rogan of the left stuff, but a thing that I had noticed when paying attention to the like right-wing ecosystem is they're constantly overlapping, and they're
Mm,
constantly on each other's shows. So they create this little world. And I started realizing that, and this isn't true in all cases, and it's probably too because a lot of lefty YouTubers are just like introverts that like to stay home with books and get cozy and stuff. But there's a lot less of that. And it does seem like there's a type of cultural power in building a community amongst people that make stuff so that the
mm.
audiences interact, so that you're building like a larger thing.
Yeah, no, it makes so much sense. And the funny thing is, sometimes when people say, "Oh, do you collaborate with other creators and stuff like that?" It's like I always say, "No, I'm not doing enough." But at the same time, I know that through like watching each other's videos, like
Mhm.
we create something similar to what you could find in academia with, like people writing papers. And then like there are conversations that even though it's not made very clearly because we don't have the person on our video or whatever, someone starts a conversation, it has an impact on someone else, and like we keep. And I'm constantly chatting with some content creators where it's like, oh yeah, I saw your video, oh it's so funny, like I'm gonna cover that in the next one. It's like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, makes sense. So it's we communicate, but I agree with you, like we need to do more to actually make it obvious, and also create, yeah, like this sense of little family. I don't know, like I don't want to call it family because then we're entering like this, capitalist family mentality type of thing. But like it's kind of, like ultimately we're all doing the
Collective
same thing, and
commune.
yeah, yeah. But no, I totally agree with you, and I really appreciate that you're making those efforts, and I need to get better at this. Yeah, but I've
Yeah.
started like doing some. I did that one interview, but you see, like I asked this person because they had sent me their book, so I was
Mhm.
like, oh, I think it's fair for me to ask them for an interview, and it's like, come on, Alice, like we do have platforms, like we do have a reputation, and we should use that as well as to also get people, academics who don't, like I have a colleague, for example, like because I work in I still like work part time in academia,
Yeah.
and she publishes such amazing things, and like the topics she covers, I'm like always like, oh, this would be so great. Like I've already used some of her stuff in like a couple of my videos, and I'm like, oh, it's such a shame that you most of what you do like still remains in those like small-ish, let's say, academic circles, and like how can I bring that not just by like a sourcing or whatever, but actually bring you on board and like get your face on the channel or something. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, and I think two things you said really stand out to me. One, and I hadn't thought about this before, thinking about like digital content collaboration in that academic way, where in academia, a lot of the collaboration is in reading the work of other people or hearing a presentation at a conference and letting those ideas inform your thing. And within that community, everyone understanding like that's a part of it. Like we're building on ideas together. And I think sometimes maybe in the content world, it's a bit more, this is my thing and my idea about this. Whereas, is the point that you are giving the best take on the thing, or is the point that you are contributing to an ongoing conversation about an important topic in a way that overlaps with what's happening, but brings something of yourself to it? And I think like a lot of the channels I know we like and we're talking about like do that, and that's what makes them so great. Um,
No, it's so true. It's interesting you mentioned this because I feel like I've had that in the past, and I think it's important to be honest about this as well. This it's also a business what we do online, and obviously like there's that competition element because
mhm.
there are the numbers, and you fight your hardest against that you can't help but like if you see a content creator who's kind of like similar to you post a video on the topic that you've prepared your whole video on and it's coming out in a few days, like you can't help but have this little reaction of like, ah shit. It's
No,
like,
for
oh my
sure, for
video.
sure.
But I think like it's important to I think it was Shanspie who made a video about this, the fact that because they were caught up in like a little bit of a drama situation
Mhm,
where a creator was accusing them of, like just copying a topic
mhm.
that they had covered. But it's those topics, they don't belong to us. And it's
Yeah,
important that we make sure we don't fall into this mentality of like competing over takes or whatever, competing over
yeah.
topics, because ultimately like the more people get engaged with those things, the better. So
For
yeah.
sure. And I think like the competition thing just boils down to a world where we basically are commodifying ideas or like commodifying concepts in a
Yeah.
way that's more about ownership and not collective usage. And I don't know,
Mm.
in a sense, if someone makes something similar to what I make, like if okay, if that means 30,000 more people are thinking about an interesting thing, then that's good. And this is something that maybe like comes over time. I think like 10 years ago, I would have been more competitive. And now I kind of am like training my brain to be like, oh, this is just cool. It's
Mm.
cool that other people are doing this thing. And it's cool that we're building something collectively. And it probably does just benefit everyone to keep making more stuff. A second thing you said a bit ago, which I also think is really important, is finding bridges to let people from academia, like your colleague who you mentioned, have a little more notice on the internet, or like ways to transmit ideas and figures. Because I think when I've had academics on, I really enjoy it, and I often think it's a way to connect people in a broader way and like really introduce people directly to, like, because for many of us, we are communicating ideas, doing academic research, and in kind of not just like a full middle person, but we're communicating stuff from, you know, academia to a more public world. And I think finding avenues to get more academics engaged is awesome, and to give them a chance to have their research heard, because as we know, in the academic bubble, people sometimes spend a year writing a thing and then 70 people read it,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
which is
It's a very
tough.
like normal, it's a very normal experience. And not to say that this doesn't, that means that it's bad, because obviously like we're, as content creators, we're wired to think in terms of like numbers and stuff. But um but what did I want to say? With the academics getting in. Yeah, and also like just showing faces
Mhm.
behind thesis titles. Like in the last few years, you know, there's been a lot of like, oh my gosh, look at what this person is writing on, or like this is the research they're
Mhm.
doing, and then having the people actually explaining what they mean about it behind those like very complicated titles, because oftentimes, you know, there's a specific language to academia, and because it's still like a quite an elitist institution, like you have to follow certain norms, etc. But like deep down, when you talk to people, it's just they're much more chill, and they'll be able
Yeah.
to explain you things like in such a interesting way, because they are like so passionate. And even though like we are also interested in those topics that they might have worked on for years, it's like when they communicate it, there's that passion that we can't replicate. So, like as content creators, we can share things, but like it's hard for us to really get into that sort of, yeah, emotional state that they can get into while they explain their little passion project. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely like something else that
Wait, so are you
we need
teaching
to
right
do.
now then in real life for your job?
Yeah. Yeah,
Great.
it's like so I work in like a French department, and
Mhm.
basically like it's a mix of I do a lot of like methodology, so like essay writing.
Mhm.
I do like French politics, French culture. It's quite chill, like it's not too, and obviously like they kind of expect you to research a little bit as well, so like to come up with things like they regularly check like are you writing things? What are you
Mhm.
doing? Blah blah blah. So that's also part of the job. It's full time, but it's kind of part time. I treat it as part
Uh-huh.
time ish, you know.
A lot of academic jobs kind of can have that vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like you have space for research technically, and I use that like for the YouTube channel and like other
Nice.
things. Um, but yeah, it's been great, and like it's great to be in touch directly with students as well. Like I can see how it's so funny, because you have this expectation that because I talk a lot about like internet culture and like pop culture and those things, like I always assume that my students have all the references. So sometimes I drop like little references in classes, or oh, I'm like, oh yeah, you've heard about like the Gen Z star or whatever. And like it's so funny to see that actually like not all of them have those references. So I'm like, ah, my gosh, like I am actually chronically online. Like it's not just that. But yeah, it's so nice like having this sort of direct feedback. And I have some subscribers as well, like as students, and
Uh-huh.
it's
Oh,
so
that's
funny.
cool.
Like, oh, that's so funny. Like sometimes, it's usually like during the first class where, like, you'll have a students in the room being like, "Wait, is that? I know this person." Um, but yeah, like, it's lovely. I love that. But yeah.
That's so great. And it's just good to be like in touch with humans, educating in that way. Has it affected the way you think about making videos at all now, like
Uh,
actively teaching like that?
I think like it forces me to make sure that the way I speak and the way I structure things in my videos remains as accessible as
Mhm,
possible.
mhm.
And yeah, yeah, I would say that it doesn't change things too much, but and also like being in an academic environment is
Mhm.
quite good. Like it's stimulating, because
Yeah.
obviously like you have a bunch of people, nerdy people, like all researching their own like little passion thing. So it's quite a nice environment. I love it. Um, but yeah,
That's what I miss the most about academia sometimes, like, even on bad days, walking around a campus and just feeling
yeah,
like everyone is here to some extent to think about stuff and learn things, and this institution is giving structural validity to the idea that learning stuff is important,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
which, as we know, is harder than ever. Well, I wanna ask you some specific stuff about some of your recent videos, but one question first, and now I feel comfortable asking this, knowing some of the specifics of your job. In the simplest terms possible, let's say in a few minutes or less, what's going on with French politics right now? I try to keep up, and I keep getting confused. And of course, part of it has to do with the fact that it's a different system. But like, I think for many of us, it's a little bit like, what's going on now? So
Yeah.
Could you
even
give
for us.
a summary to
Like,
the non-French amongst us, especially the
uh,
non-Europeans, for what's going on
yeah,
with you guys?
it's chaotic. Like, there's so many things to cover, but I'm gonna try to be like as succinct as possible. I think like
Yeah.
most people would have a reference for when there was like this Macron like dissolved the parliament. It was around
Uh-huh.
like Olympics time.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and there was this very quickly like the left built an alliance with like all the different parties of the left, and that was great, and people were like so excited. And the National Rally was supposed to win, but
Mhm.
with all those mobilizations, the Left Wing Alliance actually ended up being like the first group in parliament, which was like everyone was happy, it was amazing and stuff like that.
Which felt
But
huge, and I think for those of us outside of France at the time, it seemed like, "Holy shit, they did a
yeah,
thing that many of us people in the UK or the US, like, wish that we could do."
oh yeah, and it was great, and obviously like people were so excited and stuff like that. And then Macron came on TV and said no one won this election, which was like, and then when we heard this on TV, we're like, what do you mean no one won the election? The left won the election. Like, just look at the chart, just look at the
Mhm.
numbers. It was like, no, there's not like a very significant win for the left or whatever he said. I can't remember. So he then proceeded to appoint a bunch of prime ministers, center right, right. Um, so we had like how many? Like three, I think. Many were voted out by the parliament. They didn't get the confidence of the parliament. We had a guy who was involved in like a case of like protecting a school that was accused of, like abusing kids and stuff like that. Like, there's so many like crazy stuff. And in the meantime, the media has made like have done everything they could to break apart this left wing alliance, creating tensions between the different groups, because basically in that left wing alliance you had like the two biggest groups would be like the Glucksmann, who kind of embodies
Mhm.
like the new socialist party, but like
Yeah.
when I say socialist party, that means like the center left in France.
Yeah.
And then you have this very strong figure, Mélenchon,
Yeah,
who
yeah.
runs like France Unbound. And now
Mhm.
they really, really, really targeted Mélenchon in particular, especially because he was very vocal about Palestine. So as it's been the case in like most, Western countries, like as soon as a political party stands with Palestine, it's like,
Of
oh, you're
course.
anti-Semitic and stuff like that. So it hasn't been great. The left at the moment is in a pretty like sad state, broken apart in many different ways. The socialists party, so like the center left party, ultimately accepted to keep the government as it is. So it's still like a Macron government. We still have like
Okay.
a center prime minister, but they said, okay, we're going to work with them because they said that they were going to delay the retirement reform, which started the whole like
Yeah.
protest like a few years ago. So that was kind of the deal, but like they're not canceling it. They just said they were going to delay it. So big betrayal from the center left. Surprising, yes, no.
Mhm,
But
mhm, mhm.
so yeah, that's kind of like where we at. We have some elections coming soon, but just like for city elections. And then the bigger election in 2027. In the meantime, Marine Le Pen has been she can't run. I think there was a new decision which means like she really cannot run for president
Oh, that's
because
great.
like her party how do you call that in English? When you it's basically corruption. Like the
Uh-huh.
money that was allocated for her
Yeah,
party
yeah.
at the European Union was redirected to her party on a national level. We're talking like millions. So she was accused of this, and she can't run. But that doesn't mean that the far right won't win, because they have like another person they've been pushing
Well,
for the
that's what I
second
was gonna
time.
ask, because I think from, like, a external perspective and the party's what? Le Front National, right?
So it's
Or
the Rassemblement National, National Rally.
okay.
They changed
Oh,
their
National
names
Rally,
to.
sorry.
Mm.
I've associated that so much with Le Pen, and I've wondered, is it a thing, kind of like I think we have with a level of Trumpism in America, that it's overly tied to the one person? So you're saying that there's kind of like a next person up for the party that's ready
Yeah,
to fill Le
no.
Pen shoes?
It's interesting because, like, I think people thought that, yeah, there was gonna be that strong connection, and that ultimately people would maybe like look somewhere else as Marine Le Pen can't run. But I think they knew more or less like that could be something that happened. Like, she can't run, so they kind of pushed someone else as well. This guy called Jordan Bardella, much
Mhm.
younger, and contrary to Le Pen, who kind of played into that fake populists, as if like they were gonna do some left-wing policies on top of like the anti-immigration stuff. So they played very much that card with Marine Le Pen, and now this new guy, Jordan Bardella, is much more the typical far right. So like still like very pro-business and also anti-immigration. So, and he's very popular. Like he just published his second book, and the first one was just like a lot of people made fun of him because like he completely misread the Sisyphus myth. Like
Hmm.
he didn't get the part where like the ball like the rock like rolls back down. Like he just like it's it's so funny, but like oh like I grew up in the north of France, and like this region at the moment is just like so far right. Like it's getting more and more far right, so it's kind of depressing. I love about it, but it's depressing like seeing local like far right representatives getting more and more power, and like sometimes like posting like ridiculous pictures. Like there was this far right representative who has like the far right history, like that connection to Nazis and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And she posted a picture in front of a big figure of the left, Mitterrand, a
Hmm.
former French president who run on like a very left wing, around like Thatcher and Reagan times. And she was posting a picture, a selfie in front of this guy, and I was like, how can they even do that? How is that even possible for a far right person who's always been like super far right to pose in front of like a left wing president? And people are just like, yeah, yeah, whatever. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like no one is checking them, like not even like local news, no one is like.
Yeah.
So they keep going, like they keep saying like crazy stuff, they keep like, it's terrifying. But
It's so
I
scary to
guess
hear
like
because
yeah.
there was a period where it felt, I mean, like 5, 6, or like even in the first Trump era, because during the first Trump era, I lived in the UK, and there was a little bit of this sense of that so many of the post-truth political narratives that were emerging, and a lot of my European friends at that point were kind of doing the like, haha, your country's so dumb.
Mm,
And not that I disagree, but it sucks to see so much of like the Trumpification of
yeah,
party
it's
politics,
true,
political
that's just like
discourse, and political media take over, because
mm,
I think and I'm sure this is like to a point of fetishization, but there was times in my life where I was like, oh man, like just at a baseline level, the French or whoever are like, they get it in a way that we don't. There's like their basement is higher up, but this wave of nationalist populism has just gone all the way down.
oh no, definitely. But it's still interesting though, because like even the national rally country to reform UK, for example,
Mhm.
reform UK has like shown support for like the Elon Musk, the
Yeah.
Trump and stuff like that. In France, though, the national rally is very cautious about associating themselves with Trump. They don't really do that because they know that French people hate Trump, and they're more in the strategy of someone like Giorgia Meloni, trying to gain legitimacy by appearing as respectable as possible. So even like sometimes like as like someone who writes about feminism and stuff, like using feminist rhetoric as well, or like getting involved into feminist policy. Like for example, like endometriosis, there was a law that was passed to, I can't remember exactly what it was, but like they voted for it and stuff like that. And so it's interesting like how they really play the card of now like being as establishment as possible, but in a way that is still about like
Mhm.
changing the left and right establishment with something new, but you can trust us, like we can still like run things properly, basically, if that makes sense.
That listen, I know more
It doesn't
about the
make sense.
French political. It doesn't make sense, but at least I understand what's happening with it. Well, here, let me at least ask you a few questions about some of your recent videos. I feel like there's been. Well, let me ask this: do you see, when you're thinking about videos, are you consciously thinking of themes that might run throughout a series of videos, or is it more that like you're making what you're finding interesting, and maybe there's an unconscious thematic that emerges just because it's all coming from your brain?
No, that's an interesting question. Oftentimes, what happens is that pick a theme in my head, and then as I research, I find something more interesting to talk about.
Okay,
So, for
yeah.
example, like the Erica Kirk video came out of me wanting to do a video on how Christian nationalism was kind of like coming to Europe, and I'm still thinking of maybe doing that. But then, as I was researching, I was like thinking about Charlie Kirk and how
Mhm.
even in Europe, like they organized a lot of events like in celebrating Charlie Kirk, who's in the US. So it's interesting to see like how things are being imported here. And then I was like, oh no, I need to make something about Erica Kirk, like obviously. And so that's kind of how it went. And then I don't know, like I think it's just usually like the video ideas come out of conversations or something like a post maybe that annoyed me. Oftentimes, like I'm gonna be honest, it's like a Jacobin post where I'm like, because I agree with them like on the politics most of the time, but like every
But
time they cover something that is a bit more like on the social, like the how can I say this? Like the more they tend to have like a very class first universalist approach. So I'm always like getting angry sometimes that they don't cover certain things or things like that. So
Yeah, they've gotten
when I
so weird,
see
and I try to not like hate on them too much because I still think
yeah
it's better than a lot of
yeah
alternatives. But yeah, sometimes the weird class reductionism and simplicity
yeah
to what they do is a little odd, a little odd. I've a few
mm.
times like similar to that have almost started. There's a couple of videos I started making and didn't finish that were literally just like I read a Jacobin thing and it pissed me off.
See, so like it's the same for you. And
Yeah.
yeah, oftentimes like that's how it starts. It's like something annoys me, and then I think we're pretty much the same. It's like instead of just, I mean, it's tempting to just like post something, and sometimes I find myself like just writing something on Instagram, and then after like overthinking it for 30 minutes, I'm just like, no, I'm just gonna delete it. Or like I film myself like doing like a little reaction or whatever, and then I'm
Mm.
like, no, I'm actually not gonna post it. But then like I get to my little scripts, I dig to my little research, and there's always like interesting things to connect and to dig into. So that's usually how things happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Erica Kirk video I loved. Also, amazing thumbnail on that one. Um,
Editor
like
again. Yeah.
Oh my god, stunning stuff there. But I mean, interesting because again, I think for a lot of us and people that are, internet pilled, we've known of Charlie Kirk because Charlie Kirk is someone whose entire life was like putting himself on as many screens on as many apps as possible by yelling at as many 19-year-olds as possible. And I only like I knew that he had like a former beauty queen wife and that was about it. And her sort of ascension after his passing, like you talk about the speech at his memorial services and stuff like that. But then there was also like the she did the, I think you showed this in your video as well, the presidential medal of whatever she got.
Yeah. Freedom or
Um,
something. Yeah.
and then last week she got the award, the Charlie Kirk Award from Fox News or something, which
Mm.
that just felt insane that you would get that. But so much of it is her embodying a public facing leadership position, and like even in the speech she gave at the Kirk memorial funeral thing or whatever, there was parts of it, and you get to some of this in your video where I almost was like yelling at the TV being like, why are you talking about how much he empowered you? Like his whole thing was that you should just be fucking making him eggs and shit.
Yeah.
um and it seemed like in watching your video that an idea you were maybe exploring there a little bit is like a performative type of cultural subjectivity versus
Mm.
the actual thing that's happening. Like that Erica Kirk in material actuality is I guess we could say, and I'm going to use this term in a sloppy way, is embodying a certain version of like she boss feminism or like corporate feminism while using that power to perpetuate a traditionalist Christian patriarchal view of things, and kind of the inherent tension of like using the methodology of something that is bad, women having jobs and stuff,
Yeah.
to, and I think especially when because I'd never heard of the Young Women's Leadership Summit before. Sadly, they've never invited me to be
Come
a
on,
speaker.
Michael.
I
Like,
know. I'm expecting next year they're gonna invite me there, and all the young women will have a turn to like debate with me, and they'll just be like, debate this dumb lib. But I think, and I think I'm getting this right. The thing you use in your video, the quote you use, they're about more babies and beef tallow, less blue hair and birth control.
yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
Um, but in
My
a weird
God.
way, it's like hearing that, it's sort of, well, they're advocating, or they are advocating for a sort of worldview that seems antithetical to the existence of Erica Kirk as the CEO of an organization.
Mm-mm-mm. And it's like I think we all indulge in a little bit of hypocrisy here and there. So
Yeah,
I
for
didn't
sure.
want the video to be just centered on that, but I still felt like it was important to show this because I don't know, like when I saw the first speech that she had done, I can't remember which one I saw first. I think it was just like the memorial one.
Mm.
I was like, okay, so like I know a lot of people like don't like the way she speaks, and like she has a very specific way of speaking. She got a PhD in like Christian leadership. That's a
Oh,
thing, you see. So maybe not a PhD, but like a post. No, I
some
can't
sort of
remember.
like graduate degree or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh.
So I can tell, like you can tell that that probably influences the way she speaks and like writes and stuff like that. But still, like I was watching those speeches and being like, wow, like that's 30 minutes of just her speaking, and it's not something we used to see, like wives of very like influential people like being able like to do very long speeches. So even like given the space to do that. Um, so that I thought that was quite interesting. And then as I like looked more and more into her life, what she has done, where she comes from and stuff, I was like, yeah, I think it's such a clear case of someone who has a deep need to have a public role,
Hmm.
but then has to negotiate how she can have that public role within the parameters of, you know, existing in that church community, existing in that conservative space. And I don't know, I find conservative women like so interesting. But again, I didn't want to just talk about this, so that was important for me as well to see like how it starts with someone like Charlie Kirk, you know, like keeping her and her accepting that role as well, like accepting to, you know, like step back and just like being lectured on like how she's supposed to, you know, cook for him. And oh, listen, like I listened to so much content and I was just like,
I felt
oh my
bad for you
gosh, like,
because some of the clips you were using
oh,
seemed like deep cuts, and then I had the thought, "Oh, this means Alice had to be on the turning point stuff,
uh,
watching things."
blatant misogyny. But yeah, no, it was so interesting. But yeah, I thought it was a good way. There's a little reminder that for a lot of those women, like even though they try to hide it as much as they can, they can still see it in the way they speak during the speeches, in the way they act, in the way they like they love that energy. They love being on stage. They love having this public role. And yeah, I just wanted to highlight that in this video. And yeah, I'm
Yeah,
glad you enjoyed it, and it's getting some pretty positive feedback, so I'm happy with it
I'm
as well.
sure.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting too to think about the Erica Kirk thing in light of the fact that Trump has put so many women in leadership roles,
Mm-mm-mm.
and so many of whether it's why am I forgetting all the bad people's names now? The Gnome, Kirsty Gnome,
Yeah, yeah,
and there's Pam Bondi, some of these others, and they have the Mar-a-Lago face. I think you might have referenced that.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, this weird contradiction of like the traditional family gender roles nationalist party also being fronted by powerful men. There's the press secretary woman as well, Leavitt, I think, or
Mm-mm.
Levitt,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that.
Caroline Levitt. Yeah,
Yeah. And there's like a genius to it in a really sick way that then Trump can be like, who loves women more than me? Look at all these,
yeah.
look at
Look
all
at
my
all these
gorgeous
women.
women.
Look at all my women.
I surround
Oh
myself
god.
with women because I love them so much.
But you know, like it's so interesting as well to see this slight difference between someone like Erica Kirk and the women who are holding like political roles within the
Mhm,
Trump administration. I feel like it's Amanda Mariana who did
mhm,
this video like specifically like on the Republican woman look. And I think in that video as well, like she showed another person who was also running as like a Republican woman for like a high office. And that person, contrary to like the Noam and all these other women who like occupy space but then have this very like super feminine, over feminine, we could even say aesthetic. There
mhm,
was this other type of person embodying a more like motherhood, giving like a more motherhood vibe to it, and
mhm,
presenting themselves as having a political role through that motherhood role. So like you
mhm,
have even like within the conservative women doing politics, you also have like a separation between the two. And I feel like Erica Kirk is kind of like in between, where as I say in the video, like she highlights her civic role more than her political role. Like she doesn't really engage in debates around like LGBTQ plus rights. So like, or at least like she tries to limit that as much as possible. She talks about values, how women should, you know, live their life, the importance of. So it's much more like bigger ideas. Basically, she doesn't indulge in like the sort of things that Charlie Kirk would indulge in, you know, like the very debate type of stuff. And I'm actually curious to see like how things are gonna evolve now, because like that was like the
yeah.
basis of Charlie Kirk's appeal, like the campus debates. And like she's definitely not someone who has done that in the past. I'm curious to see like, is she gonna change and go more towards that? Like what's gonna happen? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and one of the reasons as well that I'd asked earlier about thematics and videos is I thought that video and then the video you did a month or two ago on men, was it the problem of men or the problem with men?
Oh,
The
the
one,
sorry, are straight
the one,
men okay with something like this?
yeah, the one that started with you being like, whenever I make videos that are about like white feminism,
Oh,
a bunch of
yeah,
dudes watch them and that feels weird. Here's why. And you talk about like
yeah.
Hassan and Travis Kelsey. But that one, I thought those videos worked really well together because there's a sense in which,
Yeah, no, that's true.
looking at Erica Kirk and the MAGA woman who has this like unconscious, more like liberal progressive drive motivating what they're doing, and then pointing out the risk of,
Mm.
the progressive men or self-identified progressive men who still maybe have to employ a type of like toxic masculine logic to be like good, or to gain a following still, and the sort of like replication of that logic on both sides I found very interesting.
Yeah, how gender presentation is used in a political manner, and it's difficult to see because ideally, like you don't want values to be associated to a certain gender, and that's something
Mhm.
I've argued in the case of like masculinity. Like, just I'm quite skeptical of this idea of like healthy masculinity versus like toxic masculinity, as if like the solution to so-called toxic masculinity would be to have like good, positive masculine role models.
Mhm.
I'm just like, I don't know, like, is it really a matter of role model? And what if the person no longer likes this role model and then
Yeah.
switch to another role model? Like, we shouldn't depend like once. And it's so interesting actually because like a book came out recently for those of you in and I see you like your viewers who know like Scott Galloway.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm
he's like
talking about that
are you
later
familiar
on
with
the show today. I think I was not the book, but I was
okay,
going to look at
okay.
some stuff about that.
Uh
So this is interesting.
yeah, notes on being a man,
Yeah.
which is interesting because it's kind of like this soft rebranding of the manosphere
Mhm.
in a way. Like I'm still quite skeptical of his work, but I'll let you talk about it later. Like I'll let you cover this, but I'll be
Yeah.
interested to know what you think about him
Well, I haven't
anyway.
read the book. I'm like going to look at some stuff written about the book. But yes, I'm skeptical that the like the solution to the problem is rebranding masculinity.
Mm,
And I think that I don't know, like I've and I still don't know what the balance is, because I completely understand the reaction in some circles against the sort of like crisis of men stuff. And there's an essay I read, and I feel really bad. I can't remember what it was, a few weeks ago, where a female essayist was kind of saying like, the tone of it was kind of like, miss me with this, guys. Like, miss me with the idea that the people I should really feel bad for right now are 25-year-old white men who feel alienated in America, which, like, I understand a level of that. Um, at the same time, life does suck for lots of people, and some of those
mm,
people are men. So I think it's just like acknowledging or trying to find some balance that acknowledges the cultural and economic conditions that do lead to like crises of, I guess, various groups, but then acknowledging that the solution to that isn't a identity oriented solution. The solution to that is like a larger political and cultural project of, to
yeah.
be really blunt, like making the world less shitty. And that,
Mm,
the reason, that there's like broader social things we can do to bring, because I guess I would rather alienated young men be like, oh, participating in XYZ socialist project actually responds to so many of the things that are making my life shitty, rather than being like, I'm an alienated male, I need a leftist with muscles to tell me what to do.
yeah.
And that's not
Yeah,
a
no,
shot at Hassan Piker or any of these people, because I think like they're doing a good thing. But it is, there's something to be said for the fact I liked the contrast you showed in the video between kind of having like Piker and Kelsey as these like two representations of the macho version of who the
the Joe
enlightened
Rogan of the
modern
left.
man can
Yeah, as you
be.
mentioned, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's interesting. I think it's the same thing as saying, let's say, like I don't know, like Zoran Mamdani is gonna
Hmm.
like just focusing just on the personality of a person
Hmm.
and the values that are attached to them, and like getting obsessed with that person and seeing that person as your savior or whatever. I think it's always, and I've been chatting about this with like a lot of obviously like activists, feminists, but also feminists, like for example like men who work with young men, like
Hmm.
workshops and that sort of thing. And it's we understand that like that's a first step, like having positive role models, or even like introducing female role models as well, because that's something that is not very present in the education of men. Like, hey, do you also look up to women, and not your mom,
Hmm.
like not in a, oh,
Yeah.
I love my mom is amazing, like no, we're not talking about that. We're talking about looking up to individuals for their skills, for what they're good at, regardless of their gender. So that's something that obviously that's the first step. But ultimately, we know, you and I, that it's not gonna be the the solution, because we're still trapped into, you know, ideas being stuck to people, and you don't know what those people are going to think like in 2, 3, or 5 years, what they might say. So it's always quite fragile, but like obviously like understanding like that's a step in the right direction. But I
Mhm.
think like what also bothered me in the whole like healthy masculinity thing is how some people fail to understand that in certain areas, in certain contexts, actually performing that sort of healthy masculinity is socially rewarding for men. Like it's not
Mhm.
something that they do as a sacrifice. You know, it's like, oh no, I'm a feminist, so I need to do this. Like it's important for me. It's like you get rewarded sometimes if in certain areas, in certain contexts, in certain social groups, if you like bring your daughter no, wait, to you like to your to school, things like that, like oh my gosh, he's a good dad, like
Oh,
he's a
no,
modern
it's
dad or
it's
whatever.
crazy.
So
Like,
yeah,
I've had
yeah.
this experience, and I see this in people's eyes where, like, my wife is out with my daughter, and people are, like, nice to her or them. But I find if I take my daughter someplace and it's just the 2 of us, the looks I get from some people are like, "What an amazing, I can't believe he's doing," like, and it's like, in one sense, "Hey, yeah, cool, sure," but the bar is so low, like, for what father is meant to be, that by just being like normal, and it's so funny too because I'm like, am I not supposed to like my kid? Is this weird that I, I like hanging out with her? Um, but no, 100 billion% that is the truth. And I think even the sort of, like you said, pointing out the rewards for being like a progressive guy, like, because there's the language that gets used by alt-right people that's like women want like strong alpha men or whatever, but like I don't think that's true. I think a lot of men I know who are just like smart, progressive, thoughtful people, even if we're talking about it and like if our frame of reference here is success in heterosexual dating, I think especially in most major to mid-sized cities, you're going to have better luck if you're a decently progressive normal guy.
Yeah,
um
who reads books and that sort of thing. It's so funny, like when I was doing this video about like like all straight men, okay, obviously like clickbait title, um I found this guy. I can't remember if I included him in the video because I found him quite last minute. A farmer, super muscular, a very strong voice, but who reads a lot of books. And he got like so much attention. Like he was obviously mostly from women, and I was just like, this is like the ultimate like female fantasy. It's just like this sort of like Paul Mescal
yeah,
looking guy, like but much more muscular, and in his truck, like kind of looking a little bit dirty, and then holding a book. And you'd be surprised. Like I did once, like a little deep dive as well in like the audio erotica type of
mhm,
content, obviously mostly watched by women and queer people. And again, like it's so funny to look at like what comes at the top. A bunch of stories of like young educated women going back to the countryside and like getting into like a little love story with like the bartender who's also like kind of artsy but doesn't really put that forward. It's just like it's so funny, like
yeah. I
to
mean, if
to
I
have
had
a
to
look
be
at those
really
things. Yeah.
toxic, and I'll be slightly toxic here for any young men watching this,
Ay, ay, ay.
um,
Ay, ay, ay.
a thing that happened to me once. Okay, so when I was like 22, 23 years old, I moved to the UK to go to school, and I didn't know a lot of people, but I didn't want to just be at home all night by myself. Sometimes I would go to a pub or a bar, and I would bring a book, and I'd get a drink, and I'd sit there and read a book. My only purpose was to like read and be outside the house. That was, unbeknownst to me, the easiest way I've ever found in my life to meet people. Because like every other time I'd be out, like a relatively nice woman would be like almost surprised that like a man in the pub or the bar was like reading a book. And then, sometimes they'd be turned off when I'd be like, oh, it's a book of Marxist cultural theory. Um, but that worked way better for me than ever being like rude or going to the gym or anything like that. Not that being healthy is bad. We should all try to be healthy because we should stay alive to win the revolution or something. Um,
Yeah. Funny you mentioned this though, because like there's a little joke running in a female WhatsApp group where some of the girls are like dating quite a lot, and obviously like they prefer like dating guys who are more progressive. But there's this thing of like the guy who has like a Marx book on his next to the bed, which is like, ah, fuck, I'm sorry, girl. Like, if it's so careful with your advice there. We want marks, but we also want like a little bit of feminist theory. We want a little
Yeah.
bit of, you touch everything, and not just marks, huh, please.
Yeah. So what the real message is, men, insincerely read feminist theory as a ploy to get women and nothing
No,
more. Like, go to the
no,
bookstore, rip the cover off a Judith Butler book, and put it
put it
inside
in
of
your book
a,
there.
I don't know, a book about sports or something. I kid. Well, here, I'm going to let you go in a second because I know it's later for you. I really appreciate your time. One thing I love to ask you real quick. What is something, it doesn't have to be your next thing. What can all of us, and I assume all of us are subscribers of Alice's YouTube channel. If you guys aren't, you can just do it right now. What do we have to look forward to coming up on the channel? Because I feel like you've been on a tear recently. I feel like you have been for 3 or 4 videos now, like just going for it, and it's been awesome. So, what do you got coming up for us?
Actually, good. Oh yeah, there's a video that I don't know if it's gonna come out this evening or maybe tomorrow. Just like a quick video reacting to the whole discourse around. I don't know if your viewers are familiar with this or yourself. The recent Vogue article on like is having a boyfriend embarrassing now,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
like
yeah.
very clickbait title. So I'm kind of like giving my take on it, quite short and sweet video. And then I don't really know what I'm gonna work on, but I'll do a little tease for your viewers. I might be working on something outside of YouTube as well, like a little project,
Ooh.
let's say. So I won't say any more about this, but I'm quite busy at the moment. Like my brain is like kind of onto
Mhm.
this thing, but we'll see in the next few months, hopefully. I'm such a like a classic content creator, just like teasing things like this and
Yep.
then
Yep.
disappearing for. But I
No, it's great. Well, and seriously, let's make sure we talk sooner than we have between now and the last time we talked. And let's also
yeah
at some point talk about maybe off public stream about some stuff we could work on together. No offense,
yeah
guys. I'm
for
not
sure.
trying to leave you all out, audience, but it's maybe a little easier to brainstorm with a person when you're not all watching and judging us. Alice, you have a lovely, cozy evening inside. I'll try to have a good rest of my
I'm
day.
drying progressively. Yeah.
Yeah. And seriously, thank you so much for taking the time. It really means a lot.
Oh no, thank you so much for having me on, and bye bye everyone. It was great to hang out with all of you, and yeah, we chat, stay in touch.
Hell yeah. Later, Alice.
Bye bye.
Hey, thanks for watching this. In case you didn't know, I have a main channel where I post video essays and stuff like that. It's just called Michael Burns. There's a link. Would love for you to check that out. If you want to support the channel more, I have a Patreon. You can also hit up either of my beverage partners. There's Yes Please Coffee, who make the best gosh darn coffee in the world. You get 15% off with the code Burns Beans. And of course, my beloved new non-alcoholic beer sponsor, Years Beers. It's really good. There's a link below, and if you use it, you get 10% off your first order. So thank you so much. And if you ever want to watch these streams live, I'm live every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific. Okay, now now it's really over. So now you can go. I'm going to finish this. Now it's over. I'll see you guys for the next one.